I guess we're going to make our unit 4. So we're talking about unit 4 quadratics. Go ahead and pause the video and copy down the table of contents. So we're going to have 2 parts to unit 4. I haven't done the table of contents for your unit 4 just yet, but part 1, pause the video, copy it down. All right, as always, take your sheets of paper and we're going to take a ruler. Take a ruler, just past the date. I'm not the date. What am I saying? Just past the page number. You're going to line up your ruler. And you can take, at this point, you can take a few pages at a time. I'm going to take about 3. Apply pressure to the ruler. Top right-hand corner. Pull it towards the ruler and down. Okay, towards the ruler and down. So we're just going to go ahead and cut all our pages. Again, past the page number. Just past the page number, straight down. Grab the right-hand side with your other hand. Pull it towards the ruler. Apply pressure to the ruler and down. All right, once you've cut your pages, I'm going to go ahead and make our cover page. So right after the next unit, you're going to make our cover page. It's unit 4. So they're going to be part 1, which is quadratic functions, and part 2, which is solving quadratics. Now, I'm going to go ahead and write in and count lines first before I cut so I can make sure that you cut correctly, okay? So we're going to actually do this. We're going to label before we cut. So once you've labeled that, you're going to come to here. You're going to split half the page. So you see it's about half. You're going to say part 1, quads. And obviously we're going to start with characteristics. All right, so part 1, quads, characteristics right here. Okay, on your next page. All right, so we're still on the first part. So first part, quads. This is halfway. You're just going to mark halfway each time because we're not going to go past that. Then you're going to count the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 lines. Go ahead and make your first tab. And that tab is going to be called 3 ways of seeing quads. First one is going to be standard. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, do that. Then on the next page, now I'm going to just do this so that you can see. Right underneath that line, so you can count it again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can count 6 lines and then write the next thing. Or you could just pull the page over just a tad and then write on the next line, write down vertex. Okay, so this is on the next page, vertex. Okay, so again, you're going to take that page. You're going to pull it slightly in. And again, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On the 8th line, you're going to write down factored. All right, but it's just easier to pull it in and just on the next line, write down the next one. So that's factored. All right, again, pull it in. Okay, and remember, we're trying to go to halfway through the page. So after factored, we're going to do our last tab for part 1, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so this tab is 5. So right after factored, it's 5 lines long, and it's on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the 9th. Okay, so the 9th line, 5 lines down, is going to be graph right from a table. Okay, then we're going to set up for part 2, but we're not going to do part 2 just yet. Again, I'm going to pull the page over, and you can see part 2 starts there all the way to the bottom. Okay, so part 2 all the way to the bottom, and you're going to write part 2, solving quads. You're going to do that first before you cut pages so that you are not cutting pages incorrectly. All right, now we're going to go in and stick our pages in. So after the cover page, here is going to be characteristics. So we take the page with characteristics and stick it in. All right, so go ahead and stick in characteristics. We're going to stick in standard, which should be the next one. All right, 2 pages for standard, standard form, stick that in. On the next one, stick in vertex, 2 pages, so 2 pages for vertex, stick that in. Again, you're staying away from the margin. Stay away from the margins on either side. Because remember, we're going to cut it, right? You're going to go to the next one. It's going to be factored. 2 pages. Stick that in, factored, factored. Stay away from the margins because we're going to cut that in a second. So you're going to stick it in before you cut it so you can make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. Graph and write from a table. Graph and write from a table. Again, stay away from the margins. All right, go ahead and stick that in. All right, and of course, the final step is to now go ahead and cut it. So the cover page, remember, we always cut the whole margin. So line up your ruler with the margin from the top, hold it at the top right, to the ruler and all the way down. Okay, all the way down. All right, so I'm going to turn that page over. Characteristics. On characteristics, you're going to cut it where it ends, and that's why we labeled it at first. So you're going to cut it to the margin and all the way down. All right. On standard form, again, that's why you labeled it so that it's easy to know where to cut. There are no mistakes. You're going to cut it to the, and if you're using liquid glue, just be careful. As you can see, man, it's a hot mess. All right, cut it standard form to the margin and all the way down. All right, the next one is vertex. All right, vertex. So again, the same thing. To the margin. And that's why we labeled it first, so that we know exactly where we're cutting with no mistakes. All the way down. Okay, turn the next page. Factored form. So again, to the margin and all the way down. All right, then our last one for part one will be graph from the table. You're going to cut that to the margin and all the way down. And you're going to just leave part two alone. All right, so when I close my book, this is what I should see. I should just see part one and part two because we've sectioned it off. So this is the beginning of part one. If I open it, I should now see all the tabs for part one. Okay, so that's how we're going to do it. So again, you should see part one and part two. If I want to go straight to part two, I pick up all the pages that will lead me to part two, and I'm on a blank page because we haven't set it up. All right, so unit 4 has 2 parts. We're going to do quadratic functions. Then we're going to look at how do I solve those quadratic functions.